Hey, how you doing? So today we're going to do a story time video. Now this is about the drunken musician, so I'm going to change the person's name. I think it's the fairest thing to do, but this story happened over 8 years ago, back in 2013. Would I be correct? And yeah, it was about 8 years ago, back in 2013, and I was hired to play a wedding about 2 hours from my house in the county Sligo. It's about 2 hours from where I live. And I'd never really played with this band before. I've done 1 or 2 gigs with them, but not a whole lot. Now this specific night we were playing, which was a Saturday night, they had hired in 2 other people to play this particular gig as well as me. So I was all set to go on the Saturday, and then on the Friday evening I get a text message from an unknown number. I didn't know who it was from, and it was, the text message pretty much just read, "Hi, this is Paul, we're playing on the same gig tomorrow, would you like to carpool?" And I'm thinking, great, well, I have someone to share the journey with, even though it's not a long journey, but I get someone to share the journey with, someone to split the cost for the petrol, happy days. So I said, yeah, listen, I'll do the driving, there's no problem with that. I said, I'll be around your house about 5:30, and we'll go from there. And it'd be about 20 euros for the diesel. I said to him, just give me your address. So he was like, yeah, perfect. And he gave me an address. It was literally down the road from where I live, so it was perfect. So anyway, Saturday comes along, and I go over to his house, 5:30, give him the text message, hey man, listen, I'm outside, ready to go to play this gig. He comes out, he's got his suit on, he's ready to go, he's got all his gear, he puts it in the boot, some of it in the back, jumps in the front of the car, and we set off on the journey. Now, keep in mind, I don't know this guy very well. The only time I've met him, I know he's a really good musician. At the time, he was one of the best in the town that we're in. He's well known, he plays a lot of gigs around the town, and I did the only time I've actually sat and played with the guy was when I was rehearsing for a band, and I didn't, or not rehearsing, trying out for a band, and I didn't actually get the gig, but he was in that band, but he was really nice guy. So he sits in the car and we're on the way, and it's always weird when you're in the car with somebody you don't know, plus the fact that we're going to be 2 hours driving to this gig. So yeah, that's fine, we get in, and I just go, so how you keeping, Paul? How's everything? And he goes, well, it's not so good because my girlfriend left me today. And I was like, whoa, and it's a little weird. I don't really know the guy, and he kind of hits me with that straight away. So I was like, oh, okay. And I don't know what to say to him because I really don't know him that well. So I was just like, I immediately said, well, that sucks. So I said, is it serious? Do you think you'll get back together again, or is he? And he was like, no, we're definitely finished. And he was like he was very upset, and so I was just like, I don't know what to say, And so I started like telling him about the times where I've been dumped and my heart's been broken, just the usual kind of stuff that when you're sitting talking to another guy that you don't really know and he's telling you about his personal stuff, the stuff that you just reply with that. So anyway, he moves the conversation on, and we're just talking about jazz and just a general chit chat that you would have with someone you don't really know that well. And we're chatting away, and he's having a smoke. And at the time, I smoked cigarettes as well, so I used to smoke rollies, so I had a rollie out the car, and we were chatting away. And as we're half an hour up the road at this stage, and as he's talking, I'm noticing that his words are getting a little bit more slurred as he's speaking. So, and I was just like, he sounds just a small bit drunk, or like on the way to getting drunk, something like that. Or maybe it's just how he speaks, because again, I don't really know. I've never actually sat down and had a conversation with him. So we're driving, and he goes, Brennan, will you stop at this petrol station? This one right here. And I was like, yeah, he was very specific about this one that he wanted to stop at. And I was like, yeah, cool. I said, I know the one you're talking about. It's just before, before the next roundabout. And he was like, yeah, that's the one. Now, I think this guy was from Germany. He could have been from Russia. I don't really know. But he was from some part of Europe. And so I pulled into the petrol station he wanted. Pull up the car, and I'm thinking, well, I may as well get some petrol while I'm here. So I pull in and fill up with petrol. He's already gone into the shop, and so I pull out the petrol, and then I go in and I pick up a Coke, and I'm standing in line to pay for the petrol and the Coke, and he's in front of me, and he's got a litre and a half of water with him. So it's his turn. He goes up and he says to the sales assistant, he says, "Listen, can I get vodka, please? Vodka." And the guy goes, yeah, no problem. So the guy picks up what we call a flagon of, we put a naggin of vodka, which is 250 milliliters, okay? Which is plenty for you to get buzzed off. I mean, it's plenty of vodka for you to get buzzed off. But he immediately goes, no, he goes, bigger. So the guy goes, yeah, so he picks up what we call a flagon, which is 500 milliliters, okay? So that's half a liter. And he's like, yeah, that's the one. So he puts it down and he pays for his stuff and he leaves. And I'm thinking, oh crap, this guy's gonna drink the vodka in the car. And it wasn't a big deal. It's not illegal to do that, but it's just, we've got a gig to do. It's not like an original band. This isn't rock and roll. This is like a corporate kind of thing that we have to do. So I pay for my stuff. I go out to the car and I open up the car and he kind of sits in and he's holding the vodka in one hand and the water in the other. And he goes, I hope you don't mind this. And I said, look, man, I don't mind you, having a drink. That's no problem. I said, just make sure you don't mess up this gig. And he goes, I won't mess up the gig. He says, I don't normally do this, but today is a different day. And I was like, yeah, cool, man. So I said, look, there's a cup in the back of the car. Do you want me to get that? You can drink it. And he's like, no, I don't need that. He gets with his thumb, he flicks off the vodka and he flicks open the water. He gets the vodka and goes, and then he starts knocking back the water. Like, I'm just like, holy crap, we haven't even left the petrol station and this guy is chugging it. Now, I was just like, Christ, man. I said, you don't want the cup in the back? He's like, no, we're fine. Now, his eyes were popping out of his head when he was doing this. They were completely bloodshot while he was knocking back this thing. And he must have had, I'm not joking, there was a fourth of the vodka gone in that swig. Let me, for instance, this is a liter of whiskey, okay? So he had half this amount. Okay, that's how much he bought. So he had a fourth of that gone in one go. And I was just like, geez, this boy can drink. I mean, it was insane. And so I was like, okay, let's just get on the road. So I get back on the road and we're traveling up and he starts talking a little bit more. But as he's talking and like, again, he's just talking about jazz and just general chit chat. And he's getting more slurred in his speech, like to a point where it's ridiculous. And he's smoking cigarettes, and then every now and then, like, man, every 10 minutes he'd do the exact same thing. Vodka in this hand, water in this hand. And he'd be like forcing it into his body. Like his body is telling him no, it's gushing out the side of his mouth. And then he picks up the vodka or the water and he knocks back a small bit of water. He's like, like he's doing like the amount of water you should be putting in, he's putting in double of that of vodka and a small bit of water. He is knocking this stuff back. And it's just, it's insane. I've never seen anyone drink like this before in my life. I mean, it was insane. Like completely very unhealthy. And he did that 3 or 4 times. And then knocking back the water again. And so we're at least, I'd say, half an hour from the venue. This is going on. And I'm kind of like, I'm a little pissed off because first of all, he's sculling the vodka and it's every time he does that, like spit's coming out of his mouth, it's hitting over the dashboard, hitting my the car window. Like it's just like, it's a scene. And then he starts talking again and I still remember this as clear as day. He goes, he says something to me and it didn't make any sense at all. Whatever, he was just like, and I look over at him, right? And he has a cigarette in one hand, right? And he just looks at me and he's like this. And he's looking through me. His eyes are completely pink with just red bloodshot coming from the side. And he's just like he's just fucked. And I was just like, ugh. So I kind of looked over, I just looked straight on. I was like, you know what? I'm just not gonna engage with him anymore. Maybe he'll just stop talking. So I'm just like, driving and just ignoring everything he's kind of saying because he's not making any sense. Like anything he's saying is just going, it's going. Now remember, I don't know this guy at all. He's in my car, and we've got to do at least a 3-hour gig, but we've got to play a wedding for crying out loud for 3 hours in front of people. Yeah, and I mean it's not exactly Carnegie Hall, but Jesus, you want to be some way like there playing the gig. So there's silence in the car, and we're about 15 minutes from the venue. Then the next thing I just hear. And I look over and he's just passed out. And if you want to see it, it was, you know, if you get a seatbelt and you push the seatbelt forward like that, it won't go any more forward because it's locked. That's what saves you. So like, he's just there and the back of the seat's here and he's just leaning like that, completely passed out with the seatbelt saving him from literally smacking his head off the window, basically. And he's just out. Now, anyone driving past it would have been absolutely comical to see this. So I drive up to the venue and we get there and I don't know what to do. I'm a little bit early. I'm just sitting here with this and the guy's completely passed out, still in the exact same position, like with the seatbelt. And I go around his side, open it up, and I'm like, Paul, you got to get it together before the lads get here. You know, you don't want to be seen drunk, you know, especially in front of the other musicians. It just looks really bad. And I'm shaking him and he's not waking up at all. And then I shake him another time and he's kind of like, nah, he's going to hit me. So I'm like, whoa, you know, I'm not going to touch him again. So I go back around my side and I'm like, I'm just going to leave it. And then the other musicians come there. And the other musicians know him, obviously, because he's hired for the job. So he you know, we're all waiting, but he's passed out. And I didn't say it to the musicians like right away when they arrived, because we're all just chilling out in the car park around my car. That's when we haven't even gone into the venue yet. We're early and they're not ready for us, so we're just chilling out by my car. So that's fine, and they just think he's asleep. And you know, everything's going fine, and I couldn't kind of keep it from them any longer, because one of the musicians just go, "Is he all right?" And I said, "Look, lads," I said, he's after sculling huge amounts of vodka. He's just like, he knocked this stuff back like Coca-Cola. Do you know, he was going through it and he's pretty much passed out. And we were like, oh, what are we gonna do? Because you know, you need each musician there. So we're like, well, we've got time. Time is on our side, because they're not going to be ready for us for another hour. So we were thinking maybe he'd sober up in the hour and he'll go on and it'll be fine. So we drive around where we're supposed to go. Remember now, he's still passed out. So I close the door, the passenger side door. I go on my side, drive right around to the back of the venue, get into the back of the venue, and I'm like, Christ, I'm shaking him. I'm like, man, you have to get your stuff together. He wakes up and he's like, and he just does that drunk thing where he's looking right through me, and he's just like, and he's not, and then he just goes straight back, boom, he's out. So I was like, oh. So I say, we still got time. I'll load in some of my stuff, and we'll just try and like leave it to the last second to get him, so maybe he can sober up. But now, keep in mind, he's completely passed out. He's not speaking to anyone. So I go in, set up the gear, come back out, and we're at this point now. We've set up. We've pretty much done a sound check. You know, there's no more time. He's either going to show up now or he's not. So we go and we shake him, and we were like, man, you got to get your stuff together. Now the bass player that we were playing with, he's a good friend of mine, but he wasn't taking any crap from him. He took the seatbelt off, kind of dragged him. He was like, come on, you need to get your stuff together, and like starts shaking him. And I mean, he's just like looking through him, you know, bent over. He's just fucked. So the bass player's like, right, I'm going to bring him into the toilet and splash water on his face. So we bring him into another toilet that's not part of where the wedding party is. So he brings him in, and I'm just like, man, you take him now, because I've done enough. I drove him here. So he brings him in, starts smashing water into his face. And then Paul just like literally goes, bah, pushes the bass player and runs into a cubicle, and then locks himself in the cubicle, and then doesn't move from the cubicle. He's like banging on the cubicle door. The bass player is like, man, you gotta come on, you gotta play this gig. So we don't know what to do at that stage. I mean, it's just gone. We're very close to show time. He's not playing the gig. That's what we're thinking. But we rang up the production company that hired for us to do this gig, and we talked to the owner. He was like, the main thing you have to do right now is get him away from the actual wedding party, because obviously we can't be seen with the drunk musician, you know, going around the wedding party. Okay, so we were like, okay, fine. So we go back into the cubicle. He's gone from the cubicle. And we're like, oh my God, he's out, like, he's gone. So we run from the toilets and we're going into the wedding party, like trying to be as calm as possible, like looking for this drunk musician. And the next thing we see him, He's standing right in the foyer, right exactly where the wedding party, in the middle of the wedding party. And now there's a wardrobe, okay, in the middle of this. So the guy just walks, he opens up the wardrobe and jumps into the wardrobe and closes the wardrobe behind him. And everybody just starts staring. And we're like, oh my good God. So we had to run in, open up the wardrobe, grabbed him, pulled him out of the wardrobe, dragged him back to my car. And I'm thinking, man, this guy's gonna get sick in my car, do you know? Because he's hammered. We put him in. And we're like, don't move from there. And then we were chatting and we were like, we got to get him as far away from the wedding party or the wedding part of the hotel as humanly possible. So I jump in the car. I said, what I'll do is I'll drive out to where we were at the front, because this is a pretty big hotel. So I'll drive all the way out to the front car park and I'll park up there. And then even if he wakes up, he won't know where he is. And he'll find it very difficult to get that far. That was the plan. I mean, it's not a very humane plan, but it was the best that we had at the time. So and remember, 5 minutes, we've got to start playing. So I jump in the car, I drive as far to the front of the hotel as humanly possible. And I mean, I'm not very comfortable with this because he's in my car. And he could just get sick at any moment all over my car. And I'm thinking, well, what'll I do? Because I can't lock him in the car. Because what if he needs to take a piss or whatever? Do you know, maybe he's going to piss himself. Who knows? I mean, the guy's hammered. And so I open up my side and I'm like, right, this is the best idea. I'll take my car keys. I closed the door, opened up his side. I got the seatbelt, tucked him into the seatbelt, and I just shook him. And he kind of wakes up and I said, don't move from the fucking car at all. Just stay here. And so he just sticks his leg outside the car and he just collapses again on top of the seatbelt. Boom. You know, and the only thing that's holding him up now is the seatbelt again. So I'm like, look, I've got to go. So I ran back. So we went on stage, and we're thinking, you know, we're starting off the first dance. I'm thinking any minute now this guy is going to run in through the wedding party with like his clothes off or something terrible like that. But we started playing, and thankfully that didn't happen. And it came to half time. So we'd already played like an hour and a half. And so we did that, and I said, right, I better go check on the car, make sure everything's okay there. So I go out to the front of the hotel, go over to where my car is. He's exactly in the same position as when I left him. Legs stuck out, the seatbelt holding him up, and I was just like, this is amazing. And I was like, he's not moving at all. He's just still passed out completely. So I go back, we play the second half, get the second half over and done with, the gig is finished. So that's great, we've done our 3 hours. I get out to the front of the hotel again, jump in the car, and he's still in the same position, he hasn't moved. So he put his leg back into the car, close it, and then I drive around to the back of where we are. As I'm driving around the back, he kind of just comes alive. And he kind of looks up and he's looking around the place, right? And I'm just like, I said, you all right? You know, you okay there, Paul? And he was just like, doesn't say anything. He just kind of looked at me. And then he picks up a cigarette. He lights the cigarette. And I was like, okay. So I said, look, man, I said, I think it's best if you just stay in the car. I'm going to get the gear. Now, at this point, I pull down the drum kit. You know, I'm ready to bring it out to the car. So I start loading up the car, loading the first load, go back out. I come back out. The guy's out of the car, pulling his gear out as if we're going to play the gig. I just go over to him, I said, Paul, I said, put the gear back. I said, you missed the gig. And he just kind of looks at me like, huh? And I was like, sit down. I said, the gig's over. He was just like, so he puts, then he tries to take it out again. And I was like, man, put the gear back. I said, go in the front. I said, the gig's over. So I go back in, get the last bit of gear. Sure enough, he's halfway in with his saxophone walking towards the stage. I was like, dude, get back. I said, the gig's over. I said, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. And he doesn't comprehend any of this. Anyway, we get him back into the car and I start driving home. And by the way, by the time I get back into the car, after I've literally secured him back in the car, it's like having a child. He's passed out again, he's gone. And I'm driving home and we're halfway home and he wakes up and he sparks up another cigarette. And then he doesn't say anything, he doesn't speak at all. But so we're at 1 hour together in this car. He's awake, I'm awake, and we're not speaking a word to each other all the way back to drop him off at his house. So I think he did pass out again. we get to his house, I'm like, get up. I'm like, get the fuck out of my car. But I didn't say that. I was like, yo, Paul, we're back at your house. And I said, look, I'll give you a hand. So I picked up his saxophone, picked up his bag. I think he had another thing. I gave it to him. And I was just like, can you get into your house? I literally walked him to the door. I said, can you get into your house? And he was just like, you know, again, not even saying a word, just looking right through me. And he can't get the key in the door. So I just pick up the key and I opened it and I was like, there you go, you're in. I said, I'm done. So I go back to my car, drive off. And that was my story of the drunk musician. And I mean, I think it was 3 days later, I get a phone call. And he was like, Brendan. And I was like, hey, Paul, how's it going? And he was just like, he said, what happened the last night? I said, do you remember anything, do you? He goes, I remember getting into the car with you, and then that's about it. I said, listen, you drank an awful lot of it. I said, do you remember buying the vodka? And he was like, yes, but I didn't drink that much. I was like, man, you drank a lot of that vodka. After he left, I picked up the vodka bottle. There was maybe a finger left in the thing. He drank the guts of 500 milliliters of vodka in the space of less than an hour. Way less than an hour, 45 minutes. He had the whole thing, you know, gobbled up. So I just said, that's what happened. I said, you passed out in the car. We couldn't wake you up. We tried. There was nothing we could do to wake you up. And I drove you home. I said, you didn't do anything that embarrassing? I said, I didn't tell him about the wardrobe because that was pretty embarrassing. But that was it. And then that was it. And I never really talked to him again after that. I mean, that's the thing, you know, when you're going through a tough time, try not to go on the old booze. Because sure enough, if you're going through a tough time and you're feeling like shit, you know, okay, you take, you know, alcohol, yeah, you feel great, but you're only going to feel great for a couple of hours, then you're going to feel double bad the next day. So it's kind of pointless, you know. I don't really see the, you know, if I drink, I'm generally in a good mood. I wouldn't really be drinking if I'm in a crappy mood, because it only gets worse, you know. Anyway, that's my story time of the drunk musician. Please let me know what you thought of it down in the comment section. If you liked it, please let me know down in the comment section, because I might do another one. I don't know. I'll see how it goes. Make sure you give me one of these. Take it easy, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Guys, hit me up on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. And if you like what you've seen here today, you can see a lot more videos. Just click on any of them here on the screen.